cloud formations across the Earth. And
This is a segment that they believed wasn't even and the same misleading shot on the 20th. Later that evening, they were said to be walking on the moon. How can this be when they were in Earth orbit only 9 hours earlier, and the moon is some 3 days' journey away? Furthermore, if they genuinely went to the moon, why would they be faking any part of it? Why this trickery with the window? By faking being halfway to the moon, it becomes apparent that they did so because they could not even go halfway. It thus success was the lethal radiation of the Van Allen radiation belts. Since the same equipment was used on the subsequent missions in the 40 months that followed, none of them could have gone to the moon. They only increased their proficiency at staging them. When some TV viewers of the second manned mission to the moon telephoned the networks complaining that reruns of I Love Lucy were being interrupted, it became clear that for the taxpayers, once was enough. But it wasn't enough for the government and contractors. Billions of dollars of pure profit went with each return. How coincidental that the following mission would have the element of life and death jeopardy. Apollo 13. Now the public would take going to the moon more seriously and be reconnected with the drama. We now realize that perhaps the reason Neil Armstrong has never given an on-camera interview is because he doesn't want to lie anymore. What threats may have been made upon such honorable men or their families to possess their reluctant cooperation and later ill feelings towards perpetuating this hour in American history? NASA's highest-ranking official, James Webb, resigned without explanation just days before the first Apollo mission. Why, when he was on the threshold of achieving the greatest accomplishment of his career? All 3 Apollo 11 astronauts also resigned shortly after their return. On the 25th anniversary of the event, in 1994, Neil Armstrong made a rare public appearance and held back tears as he spoke these brief cryptic remarks before the next generation of taxpayers as they toured the White House.
Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you, that is, undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
Now, as you can see, the whole thing is a hoax. You know, they basically, they faked it. They put the camera back in the cabin and shot a picture of the planet, through the window. But now another thing you have to realize is, remember, the other side, they blocked out the sun. So this is more proof that, there is no dome, because we know the sun was there behind them and they had to block it out so it wouldn't light the cabin. But this is proof positive there is no dome and that the sun is in fact outside of the planet and not with us under a dome. So, we can kill the whole dome story. But you can see how far they are willing to go to scam us. We couldn't get there in 1969. Now, I personally believe now, later they developed the technology to get there. I believe they developed the technology enough for, crafts to get there, but not human life, not people. They could send a camera out there or a satellite, but they couldn't send, living people out there, through the radiation, of course, because nobody would be able to survive it. So what you should realize is that video explains the black background. Whenever we see the shots of the Earth, that's supposed to be from NASA, supposed to be from live shots, and, from what they describe as a composite of the Earth, it explains the black background. Now, we know why it's black, because they put the insert there, and the blackness that we're seeing is not space. It was just the inside of a cabin. But what you have to realize is this. No matter if they develop the technology to go further in space, actual human beings, no matter if the Earth is round, if it's flat, if it's square, or what have you, they can only ever show us that shot. They can only ever show us the shots with the black background. They can only show us these shots that look like, what we seen from the Apollo 11 mission. Because if they show us anything different, then everybody is going to know in 1969 that NASA scammed the world out of billions of dollars when they faked the moon landing. Everybody is going to know. So they got to use this shot. They got to use the black background. They can't show us nothing else, because we're going to say, well, it's not in that 1969 photo of NASA. If you ask anybody to show you a picture, an official picture from NASA of the Earth, it's always that shot with the black background. Any other pictures we see is usually of a closer shot of Earth, where they try to show you, the continents or Africa or clouds and stuff like that. Some kind of cloud cover. And that's usually CGI or computer animated or generated, footage, and they admit that. But any official shot that is supposed to be of the planet has always had the black background, and now you know why. Now understand, they are not showing us the true picture of Earth because of, the moon landing, or because it's a dome, or the Earth is flat, or what have you. They're not showing us the true picture of Earth because the Earth is bigger than we know. It's bigger. Now, the whole thing is, this has been proven that it's more land out there. It's more land in the north, and it's more land in the south. And the whole thing is, they have been covering this up for years. Now, this whole thing brings me to Admiral Byrd. And this is what led me to the whole flat Earth theory and flat earthers about, 8 years ago. When I started studying the exploration of Admiral Byrd. Now, Admiral Byrd has explored so many different parts of the world, for decades. He mapped out the North Pole. He mapped out different parts of the world. He has flown all across the Earth, not just for America, but for other countries as well. Now, he is most known for his exploration of Antarctica. And when he went to Antarctica, he discovered that Antarctica was rich in natural resources. He said it's enough coal there to basically supply the whole world, for years. It's enough minerals there. There might be oil there. And it was about 7 countries involved in this whole exploration, in 1956. Now, he went out there, they were studying, they was researching the whole thing. I believe it was 1956 was his last trip out there, or 1959 was his last trip out to the Antarctic to explore it and to excavate the whole thing. And they took a whole ship of soldiers out there for whatever reason. He took a ship that had about 1,400 soldiers on it, and he went to Antarctica for whatever. We're never going to know what the purpose of the troops were, or what was going on and what was taking place there, but they felt like they needed protection, and they needed over 1,000 soldiers, and they went out there. But this is what you have to understand. Not only did he go out there and he explained that, Antarctica was, resource rich, it was huge, and it wasn't all completely frozen. It was parts of Antarctica that was thawed out, that was green. But on top of all of that, there was also another continent deeper into the interior of Antarctica, further out. This continent was the size of America, and nobody has ever stepped foot on that continent. He came on TV and he expressed all of these things to the public, and he put all this information out there. Now, take a look.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral,
Yeah.
would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, to the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia, but why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime, because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And you know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma
so.
Peninsula, was it?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica, then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.